I see that and do that, right? This doesn't even mix the outside.
It's nasty.
I heard it shut off from
Yeah. Yeah, so I got a good glimpse of what, and that's how I do my business.
Good morning. This is the county. We're just going to be starting a little bit late. Thank you so much for your patience.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone on the phone. This is Sarah. We're going to go ahead and get starting. So if Amanda, if you can go ahead and do your roll call. Okay. Ashley Oldham. Courtney. Debbie White.
Yes.
Ed Lerman. Janine Coleman. Joshua. Julie Hurt. Ken Dickerson. Ken Dickerson here. Ken.
Sure.
You Manchester. Was that you?
Yeah, I'm online.
Okay. You Manchester. Ramirez.
Here.
Patrick Sellers. Ron
Present.
Wilson. Then
Will we be joined by Carmel, Janelle, Kelly?
Kelly will be over here a little bit later.
Okay. Then Derek.
Yeah.
And then I will be filling in for Cassandra Fork, and my name's Amanda Walter.
And Andy, what's your last name again?
Yeah.
Is there anyone that's on the call?
You there?
All right. So I figured today we'd start off with Julie giving a brief update on the API process with the state, but also testing with the third-party products. So could you give a brief update on that, Julie?
So we'll have some messaging coming out, but CalOrigin was certified with Metric to integrate through the APIs. And most of you that have been tracking that know the API services don't, it's not the full suite of functionality of Metric. We are continuing to advocate that more things get opened up around transfers so that we can minimize kind of any duplicate data entry. There are also, as a result, there are some things required by the state that are currently required under the local ordinance. So we will be, over the next weeks developing the instructions around that and how you'll enter those things that include, there may be slightly different license types or cultivators more licenses required. We are seeing that some of our other operators in YOLO, and things like weights per plant. So there'll be some more, there will be changes to the system if we to integrate from the Mendocino trace into the state, just to comply with their requirements as well. I'd stop there for a minute in case there are questions.
Well, not a question, just an update, because I was at the state advisory committee down in LA on Thursday and got to talk with CDFA and BCC, and they are working to provide counties with more information that they need. So that's kind of a direction that the state is looking at from their perspective.
Absolutely, and we were still we SICPA met with CDFA as well as some of the other assembly members in California last week to see if we could kind of better understand what was going to happen there and what was in scope. We do expect there to be another, if not hearing, another review of the situation in late April or early May. I think Sarah provided some of that information to you. On the API portal for third parties to integrate with CalOrigin, we are expecting to stand that up really as soon as we have domain name certificates updated, which I expect will be the beginning of next week. And so there'll be a self-service portal if there are third-party providers interested in integrating with CalOrigin via the API, that they can they can register, they can test, they can receive a similar certification. So we will certainly send a message out to the county and to the operators in the county when that comes up next week. We have started doing testing with that we're supporting existing operators. We'll just expand the group to be more of a self-registration.
I'm just curious what the cost will be for the third parties to use the system.
There will be no cost from us. No cost from SICPA. The cost of the third party to the operator, it's one, depends if you decide to use one when you choose. And I'm certainly not the expert on what the pricing models are for what's out there in industry.
This is Ron. Have you found that a third-party software will integrate with SICPA as well as Metric, or it'll be two separate APIs that will be used?
It will definitely two separate APIs, or it could be, but the third parties that are working with us and testing with us now all integrate with Metric. So not an either-or situation. There are many who recognize that there may be multiple systems that they have to integrate with.
And you guys available to business decisions, because I know that's going to be pretty vital as people need to start making more records, as permanent or annual licenses are offered. I know first people are coming up on the first 120 days, so that's going to be pretty vital to make a business decision as soon as you have that information.
Absolutely. And so on the portal, when someone goes through the certification process, which is really straightforward, we'll publish them on our API portal. They'll be published on the www.calorigin page as well.
Put it on ours as well to link it to the CalOrigin site.
That's the state. So that I know.
We'll put it on ours that goes to their website.
It's linked through their API.
And what is your website?
MendocinoCounty.org.
Oh, just Mendocino County.
Okay, so that's a little update from CalOrigin. So just to recap, the last meeting we had in January, well, it's just a nursery meeting.
Pretty much nurseries that showed up.
Yeah, so it was a long time ago, at least it feels like a long time ago. We had a nursery meeting to discuss how to better service the nursery, and I know that CalOrigin went to a local nursery to look at how they've integrated CalOrigin into the system to find areas that they can improve on. The big question for this group is really, where are we at, what we want to do, and do you have any report out or recommendations you want to give the board?
I'm meeting with Richard Pfeiffer next week sometime, and the state is really back off from their individual clone height requirements. That was coming up. They put it out there as a prelim, backing away from that, allowing you to more flexibility when to tag a plant. So instead of saying it gets tagged as flower, that's the actual requirement, but if you want to tag it, and this is with the metric tag, if you want to tag it earlier, you will be able to. So that if you want to put it in the back of your greenhouse, you can go ahead and take it when you plant it rather than having to come in and work through the other ones. The other big change and movement as far as cultivators and track and trace goes, and the state's going to be working on this, is removing the A and M designate until some point further down the distribution chain. That was huge in LA. It was a unanimous of the advisory board because, quite frankly, people realize that there is no difference between A or M. The difference is taxing, and I know this will probably be happening with nurseries because there is no tax difference on that one. So those are some things that are going to affect the track and trace system. Simplify it for the cultivator going forward. Have to figure out the difference between the yellow and the pink tag. We're going to do that. Those are the colors between A and M.
Which one's yellow?
You're going to make me remember that. I think yellow is adult and pink is medical.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but it's been a while.
I'll just put yellow and pink.
And so far, though, you have to have them separate with the state system, right? So.
Yes, but right now there are tags available.
Oh, right, okay.
So, and that's kind of subtle concern is that there's only a limited number of tags the state purchased because they have a budget.
That's ridiculous.
But nobody will really say what that number is.
I'm concerned with the state, this is Monique, track and trace in terms of the timeline of when you have to enter all of your data at harvest and I thought that it said 60 days, and I'm curious if that time is really reflective of the date you harvest to when it's basically going to testing or distribution for its next roll. And I think that many cultivators don't harvest everything. I mean, we harvest the plants, but then we put them into a curing phase for up to 2 months potentially, so maybe longer. And so I'm not sure if that's being addressed at the state level.
Yes.
Okay.
You would enter your track and trace, like if you break it down in a tote, you would submit that tote weight and information into the track and trace system.
And then you're ready to process it, and you would update it. Okay. But they're not holding us to, it has to be processed within 60 days.
No, that was a concern that was brought up.
Okay.
So just to bring us back, you know a lot about trace. We worked on the API, all kind of things, and this was kind of started as a local track and trace. My question is, what do you want? Do you want this group to continue? Do you want it to meet less frequently? Do you want to merge with state requirements? So, you know, what kind of thing you want to discuss or work on then as a group or recommendations out? Because I don't meet just to meet, because we spend 15 minutes and...
Right, to make sure is that it's a one system, it's a one entry.
Yeah.
That is really my concern because of all of the requirements for data. I mean, can you sit down on your face, enter everything, and be? That's my concern from day one to now, and I haven't heard the case. I hear that we'll have our third party, that we third party into, but then the third party software, let me clarify that, our business software that we, which takes care of all of our inventory and so forth, that actual running of the business software, will we be able to, and I haven't heard how when SICPA, the county system is for this greenhouse, it is going to be a tag for that greenhouse. The state is going to need individual tags. How is the flow of that going to work? I mean, will SIPCA have an interface to where you have a barcode reader and you follow those individual plants in there, and then it will assign it to the SIC code, and then you'll be able to work in your business software to keep those two systems correct? Or how is that work we're looking at? How does that look?
Hey, so hey, this is so the first thing there is an issue whether it's your third-party business software or whether it's Cal Origin, and that is that not every function of Metric is exposed in the API services. So whether you are using your business software or you're entering directly into Cal Origin or API into Cal Origin, until that is resolved, and that's something that I know the counties, that is very concerned about, as well as some of the other jurisdictions, is that be full functionality. That's thing one. The second thing is it is our intention to allow you to scan the RFID tags, and that's the direction of Mendocino, and carry that identifier so that when we are passing all of the transactions to Trick that come into Cal Origin, and I have to qualify it with to the degree that we can do that via the API. But we cannot do it via the API, neither can any other business system. So as it stands today, transfers and things like confirming transfers have to be done directly in Trick. They're now going to offer a API for some incoming transfers. It's not currently part of the certification process, but we have it and we've tested it. But our concern is that they also expose initiation of transfers, and that would mean that all of the data could flow through to meet the compliance requirements of the state. To do that, you are going to have to, although Mendocino doesn't require plants to be weighed individually, if you're a cultivator, Metric does. Metric may require more license types that you would have to choose which license, under which license you are cultivating. Now, I'm would be happy as pleased as punch if they remove the A and the M designation, because I think they're already putting a lot of burdens. There's already a lot of burdens on cultivators in the new system and with the new requirements, and so that would be, you know, one less thing to worry about. But that is absolutely where the direction, which means we have more data requirements in origin to support that thing of the state requirements. So the question is, if you use business software, you continue to use your business software. If you feed into Cal Origin, we will provide that to the state.
So with like BioTrack, MJ Freeway, EC, as I understand it currently, through those you can access a metric to facilitate, well, you can't do it now, but you'd be able to facilitate a transfer that way. Are you saying that they've changed that?
That is not currently in the API services. So while Metric can do that, M Freeway or BioTrack may have done that in other states like Colorado. That particular, and it's a posting of the transfer not yet been made available for the California system. There's a lot of discussion about it. There's a lot of push to do that, including out of the jurisdictions like Mendocino and Humboldt, as well as the third-party systems. But yes, that is the situation today.
This is Wilson. I'm consulting with some clients on track and trace, and I'm working with the Metric API. And I understand. I understood that the not being able to do transfers through the API was from the legislation, not from Metric. Is that correct?
No, I don't believe that is correct.
Okay, I'll have to check on that.
Yeah, please do.
Not necessarily statute.
No, statute's regulatory.
Okay. And what other things?
Now, it may be a state decision, but I don't believe it's regulatory requirement.
Okay, but it's not Metric requiring that. It's the state saying no transfers through APIs.
I don't know. I don't know where that restriction comes from. I only know that in states it has been offered. It's technically possible to do. I don't know the reason that it isn't currently offered here, and that continues to be a topic of discussion, and I expect it will continue to be a topic of discussion in the Capitol over the next month and a half, because again, it's not a Cal Origin problem. Any third parties, and I was just on the phone with someone from the Cannabis Distributors Association, and they are lobbying and raising the same issues. Because if you are in a part of the supply chain that does frequent transfers, this would be much more acute for you.
And I would just say that for the recommendation I personally would want to make to the board is that we not read the contract once it's expired after the 2 years of the SIPCA program from the county, because it doesn't seem necessary and an undue burdensome or undue hardship for cultivators as well as other licensees to enter into two systems, because we're not getting clarity right now that we're going to be able to enter all the data into one program, and then it decides half of it to county and then the other half to the state. Like, we need to be able to enter data one time, because there's a lot of data that we have to enter, whether you're a nursery, a cultivator, a distributor, manufacturer. That's a lot of data entry, and it's going to cost people a lot of money to have employees to mandate or to run that system. So we need it to be simplified and easy, and I think that's been the sentiment from the beginning of this group is, why is the county imposing 2 track and trace programs on us when the state's about to go live with their program? And I really strongly believe that we should at least reevaluate our contract with SIPCA after the 2 years is up, which I believe is after 2018. So that's my personal thing I'd like to put on record.
And where have we gone since our last January meeting on the nursery side of it? Have we come out with some recommendations for that, or we're still trying to figure that out?
Okay, no.
Okay, well, I will bring more information back when I come back from the state.
Here's my thought, because I really don't think we need to meet every month. My thought is, if that's the recommendation, the whole group agrees, make that a recommendation. The board can do what the board's going to do. In terms of updates and API, and as we progress and get more information on what the changes are, I think it could be more of like a quarterly meeting, because I don't want you guys driving from like Covelo and Laytonville for like a 20-minute meeting. I know a lot of you guys are going to be here all day.
Yeah.
No.
So it doesn't, as it's an all day, if it's on the same day, it's really, we're already here. I think the important thing is if we say quarterly, we could miss a change, something that happens. I think it should be more of based on the current climate and regulatory atmosphere. So if we've got other working groups scheduled and something has happened, and I think that many of us here are really on top of it, and Julie's on top of it, so if she says, hey, there's something that's changed, I've got an update, and we've got regular working groups scheduled, let's go ahead and schedule it, or if a member of this working group has that, and if not, then we could say, we could put out the email that says, has anybody got any updates that we need to meet with the regular other working groups, yes or no, and we can make the decision that way.
So how about we tentatively hold our next meeting in May?
The April meeting in Oakland that's going to have new updates, so...
Did they for sure schedule it, though?
It's going to be in Oakland, and it's going to be in April.
Yeah. Okay. There's no reason to meet on April
1st. Right.
So if we can tentatively, let's just target the meeting in May.
Okay.
If something really important happens at these meetings, we could do a conference call, like a 30-minute conference call.
Yeah.
Let's target maybe meeting again in May. We'll put the recommendation on the agenda so anyone that missed today's meeting can see it. And if that's good, we'll put that in with our next round of stuff that goes to the board. And then we'll have a time. This will not necessarily meet every single meeting, but kind of an as needed in terms of transitioning to the new.
Because there's still a lot of...
To the new system.
Yeah, there's still a lot of confusion out there on the transfers from nurseries to cultivators, and because we are hitting that 120-day, and people are realizing that it was kind of premature in some ways to jump out right in January, hitting that 100-day mark, and it's still kind of up in the air.
I'm sure they'll give you on that 90 days.
It's good. Well, it's actually looking like the emergency regs are probably going to be extended another 6 months.
Oh, yeah.
Because of a lot of issues that
And on the bright side, we'll talk about this more, the state requirements. Yeah. It looks like we all might be assisting the state in regulating the cultivators. So
at the Mendocino County level. Cool.
That was a question.
Not for sure. The state's developing a pilot program, so we're starting the negotiation process of what we would need to do in a pilot program. That determines the viability of whether they would move forward. And they have to get money reallocated. And the budget's not adopted until June. All that stuff.
Hi, this is Kevin. I have a quick question. So did the state decide if they're going to share the information or data collected with the county yet?
I'm lobbying on it, Kevin.
But I see positive baby steps.
McGuire and Wood were all for it on that. Lori Ajax is well behind that. Richard Pfeiffer doesn't have any say, but he feels that a streamlined system would make it simpler for everyone.
Thanks.
Okay.
The one thing, hi, this is Julie. that I would just encourage everybody. I know you've got a working group to compare the state requirements with local requirements, and I don't know how many Mendocino cultivators have been inspected yet, but we do know from our other jurisdictions that there were some issues with license designations. I think it is really important to focus on that and make sure you understand what the requirements are, because they do vary. They are slightly different, and it will certainly help you in an inspection a little bit better.
I was just going to say, I think the way like track and trace is like barely starting. It's like my feeling is most cultivators, have had so much, bigger things to do that they're just beginning, as they start planning, to think about track and trace. And so I think the work is ahead, and we're going to start to see more feedback once we use it and get going, because most people have not focused on it, don't know what's ahead of them at all, is my feeling.
That big tsunami that used to be harvest is now track and trace. An additional one. And it would be interesting to kind of, I think that this group would focus on some type of training. If we do not get the 6-month extension, we are going to need to have some really intensive training on, like a demonstration on how you go through with SICPA and add their sticker, and how you put the track and trace in, and what equipment you're going to need to integrate those two. Because I don't know, on my smartphone I have a QR code reader. I know I have a barcode reader, but I don't know, I know how to do it. I would have to extract that information from the QR code, export that into a spreadsheet, and then take the barcode software, export that into a spreadsheet, and then have those fields merge. That's definitely going to need to have some kind of training on how to do that. So we can start, I think that would be something to really, Julie, maybe you can do that, start thinking about how that would actually happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Because I know it's a long time since I've done merge fields on a spreadsheet, and so I don't really expect the majority of people on their own to know how to do that.
Exactly, and there's certainly options where we'll be looking for, keyboard-based scanners that might make it easier, so that you're scanning directly into software. I think there's lots of possibilities, but depending on what people are using in their operation, but a full set of instructions has to be included, and it's just been a bit difficult to get that in place when some of the data and some of the requirements are still kind of in flux.
More of a suggestion so that cultivators can start planning, because we know that SICPA is a QR-based. We know Metric is going to be RFID barcode-based. So, we do know that no matter what, we're going to be dealing with those two types of data gathering systems. So if we were to wait for the cultivators to come up with the solution, they don't even know what the problem is. So we need to give them some, so they can start looking and making plans for what type of equipment they're going to need to be purchasing in the future, or the near future. Whereas if it were just a barcode, that's easy. You can go and look and see what Colorado's using as an RFID reader or barcode. But to know which systems are going to work together would be extremely helpful.
My partner attended the Track and Trace County in Sulphur and came home, and he's not computer literate really. And I was like, how did it go? And I feel like he walked away with hardly any information. So I feel like we definitely need to know what to expect as we move forward, and that we even need to buy equipment. Like he didn't come home saying, oh, we're going to have to buy some software and do this. Okay. So this is more in line with how it interfaces. So we need to do.
And we say you don't need to buy anything. That's based on having a smartphone with the QR.
No, not.
Right.
No. So we can just enter it online.
the QR code is meant more for the retail customer
Yeah.
if they ever see that tag,
So you're in.
which I'm doubting.
You usually have internally in the system, you have stamps. Your stamps are already, like, you just put the first number, the last number, it pre-populates and stamp. So, and we don't do individual plant tags. So there's no, like, scanning your plants or your clones or anything like that. And so it's not as complicated as, and I think the training that it would be vital and what we can work on is what do you need to do to prepare for state, but also how can you set up your system to integrate with the state. So I think there's that training area. We can't be the expert on what equipment you should buy for your RFID tags.
Right.
You can literally do our system and not have any equipment.
Okay.
So yeah, and really you guys do the things that may need equipment is not cultivator level.
Okay.
I would say cultivation is the easiest of all the track and trace, and then it gets progressively
harder.
Yeah, because metric comes pre-populated also.
Yeah, it's not.
And so, again, it's still, okay, so you've got preloaded here, and then how do you work?
Yeah, and that's one thing that she was talking about earlier, and making sure that when we assign that you have that you can use, there's fields so that you can use all of your metric numbers as well, so you're not, anyways, but it's not as, you don't need any equipment to do it.
Okay. But we do at the state level, so then kind of do. I mean, I want to know, we need to know everything across our business.
My opinion, it really going to depend on how big your operation is.
20.
Like if you're literally, if you're growing like multiple greenhouses up to like an acre of cultivation and you're doing like 4 to 5 cycles a year, you're going to need equipment.
Yeah. I just think if
25 plants.
Okay. I think it's just so important that if we're going to end up having 2 programs that we're entering data in, that the county supports us in understanding how to do that.
Yes.
Instead of, this is our program, here's the figure out, because we're talking about cultivators, people that are not privy to this world at all.
I think we can assist in the training of how you can set up everything so that you can see certain things to the state and do and help you.
And I think that would be part of the cannabis manager, making sure that once people get, I believe in knowing everything you can ahead of time.
Yeah.
So that you can make a good business decision rather than diving into this and going like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
Because that doesn't help the county, it doesn't help the cultivator, it helps the county get one-time fee.
Well, you'll begin to see Kelly a lot more. He'll be at the other working groups today, and we'll ultimately we'll be transitioning the working groups, and he'll be facilitating. But, we're in the process of doing a lot of things right now, issuing permits.
Yeah, and I think for small cultivators, you won't really need barcode equipment. I mean, it helps because it makes it faster and less error prone. It's like the metric code, I think, is like a 16-digit number. You don't want to be entering those a lot. This is a spot where not requiring on every plant until you go from, you would have a batch, like, a greenhouse in pots or something, and then you would have one tag for that batch. But that tag has to be on every plant. You have your own tag to go on each plant, so that if you move anything, it stays, you know what batch it's in. And so then when you go to flowering, then you have to add that to the individual tag and mark it as part of that batch.
Just think we need more extensive training, even than what is being currently offered, I think.
Yeah, well, like Metric had, the training, like just the 2-hour class, in Eureka. There's one, I don't know what else.
Yeah.
Right, and that was an overview, and they said there will be more training, specific training later, but I haven't seen anything about that.
And what are we supposed to do right now? Sorry,
Right now, track and trace is all paper.
Because I'm like, we have our seeds started, and the county's not requiring us to put tags on all the seeds. yet, so I'm just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing right now.
Well, I think for the state,
And for the state, too.
for metric, you don't have to do any track and trace until you have an annual license.
Then are they going to require us to go back into before? Because we're moving forward, we're going to be in the middle of the year.
Yeah.
Plants are, effectively in the ground in May, June.
I would say,
Honestly, you could depending on how long they extend their emergency regulations, what their backlog is of now getting through temporary, launching their pilot program to do their first round of inspections, finalizing things. I mean, you could get into metrics maybe in the summer, maybe in the fall, maybe in the winter, maybe next year.
What about the county?
Because you're not going to be in the system until you're issued an annual permit. And I have no idea what time they're going to open the door to apply really for an annual, how long it will take to process that and issue it. And then if they're going to require specific state licenses, like in advance, like do you have to have your 1600 permit? Do you have to, like what they're going to allow to be in process or what you're going to have. So,
But like how the
stay informed, but it's not like it's going to hit you tomorrow.
I would say the thing is keep a good grower's diary.
Yeah.
In other words, that if you start seeds, just put, and things that you probably do, like you start 20 seeds, this many donated, this many male, this many female, I planted them in this pot this day. But the county would be really good because you kind of have the framework for the SICPA system. So if you would think like a grower and put together a calendar of suggested on this day, if you are following a typical thing, you should probably be doing this in track and trace and be prepared for this upcoming event in track and trace so that, for instance, I know if they're ahead or behind.
Kind of do that now in the training in terms of we get them into the system of what we recommend looking at your track and trace, how often, when you should start putting your inventory in, when you should put in your draft harvest or your draft planting, like things like that. We do provide that of like timing in the training. Because right now you could put in your inventory and you could put out exactly, I'm going to grow this strain and I'm going to plant it this time of year. You can have everything in the system completely ready and in draft form until you're ready to plant, and that's what we suggest. We do some of that in.
But we're getting 2 months before people can. I think it's June 1st is when the cutoff date for new applications.
June 30th.
June 30th. So again, if that was public as opposed to just with people in the system, people outside the system would know, what they need to do to get in.
What do you mean?
So in other words,
June 30th. You mean people that haven't applied?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still people that are, literally there are people, and I was talking with people on Sunday at an event who are still looking at the cost of the 1600. People are evaluating what their costs are to make a good business decision going into this. And so if they have that schedule ahead of time, again, that would help them making that decision go, this will be easier than I thought or more complicated than I thought. So that the more information they have, the quicker and better decision they can make.
At what point is the county track and trace system going to be operational?
It already is.
So we should be using it now?
As soon as you get issued a permit, you are enrolled. So we probably would, and that's including for cultivation and all other license types. So all of our facilities have already been enrolled. We're getting, I think we're at or close to 100 cultivators, and that number is going up weekly.
That includes manufacturing as well.
Yep, we have all license types. So if you're on the facility side, the only one that doesn't have an additional track and trace is transportation only for cultivators because you're already in the system. So you just have the ability to transfer.
So we have to get a permit before we are allowed to get into the system, even to see it.
It's a condition of the permit. So actually look in 10A17, it's a condition of the permit. And it's a condition of the business license. So you don't get it until you're issued a permit or license, depending on what business you're in.
And then you have to buy your license into the track and trace program, right?
There's a quarterly fee associated with it, and then there's tags, depending on.
And then once you do that, they contact you for training.
You're enrolled, an email gets sent out that you're enrolled and your account has been set up, and then I'll walk through the process of, you'll sign up for a training, and then the quarterly fee, and then you'll come to training, and you'll receive an initial training for 2 people per permit. And then they'll go through the initial steps of how to input at different parts of the time. You'll get sent home with your little packet full of directions. On the back end of the website, there's also a support tab, so it will walk you through frame by frame how to do certain things on the system in case you forget. And there's also the live people that if you ever have any problems you can talk to, and email too if you don't want to call them or you're doing something at like midnight or something like that. And I'll talk with Julie about additional training options as Metric gets closer to launching, so we can train people how that should happen, and potentially looking at training people that want to go through training again. So we'll take a second look at the training. That's essentially the process.
And what are the quarterly fees?
It's on your
Maybe
license.
yearly.
No.
If you're a small cultivator.
Cottage is separate. Everything else is the same.
$10.80 per year.
It's 500, it's basically 500 half price, I think.
And also, I do want to say that when we got our enrollment, because we have our permit, that information was sent to our spam account, so I didn't get it. And then all of a sudden, I got this notice, like, you're delinquent on your payment to the track and trace. And I'm like, what? I didn't get anything.
We send it to the email that you have on file with your ag application.
Yeah, and it went there. It was just in the spam folder, and so I had to call the Metric and find out what happened, and then we figured out that, it went to the spam folder. And I think that could be potentially happening to other cultivators or people applying once you get approved, maybe the way that, I don't know how emails decide to be in spam or not. Because I was getting other emails from CalOrigin, or not CalOrigin, but Metric, or Sipco, sorry. These different companies.
Email sent the last ones for this, not ones the other day, but the previous ones right after the board meeting went to spam in my spam filter. Because I was in LA and I'm like, I didn't hear about this, and so then I went and did the search for it, and then I found it. So I don't know what happened with that last email on that,
Well, that's one thing maybe we can add to the training is to make sure that people can
remove that.
Yeah, make sure you flag that this email account is fine.
Or even just to let people know, it sometimes does spit into your spam folder, so after you've been enrolled, be sure to check that, because you're going to get a notice saying you have to set up your payment plan. So
I would also caution everyone, because when processing them, you go up with handwritten documents. It's really hard sometimes to discern what people have written for their email, and there is a spot to put 2 different, and I would heavily suggest doing both. That way you have 2 emails that it could possibly go into spam, and the other one doesn't have spam.
We've got a whole bunch of people that are working through this AP process. So that's why I said the calendar would be nice so that they could plan, because it's now all of a sudden going to accelerate. So know what you need to be doing. Like I have what I need to do in May or June when I finally get my permit. And so it'd be nice if I was already initiating those best practices now so that I'm already doing it.
Hey, and I think that's a great idea. I'm sorry, Ron, this is Julie. I think that's a great idea. I'm gonna try to outline something, and if it's okay, maybe send it to you and see if this is kind of what you're thinking, that we can send out and say whether you're using our system or you're using Metric, there are still certain things at certain times, that's feeding the beast, if you will, that I think would be helpful for people to have in front of them in some format.
You're going to find is that, I like to tell people I'm working with that you not only have to work on your business, but not only in your business, but on your business. But farmers tend to think that, no, we are planting weed, that's all I can focus on. So now ahead of time of knowing that I've got to have some headspace for this would be, I think, purple.
Yeah. So if you give me a week or two, and then I'll get something back out, and if you don't mind, I would just like your input on whether this will be helpful, and it's something we could maybe flesh out. I think it sounds fantastic.
Yeah, that could eliminate a lot of issues.
Yeah, I don't have know, if we can get something that would be easy reference for people, they don't have to go try to find it in their, you know, training material or on the site or whatever. So I will take an action for that and see if we can move something that would be helpful forward.
I'm writing some articles on some of this stuff, you know, what equipment you need, what, you know, how it works, as I try to figure it out myself. So it won't be official, but hopefully I can get some feedback and corrections if I don't do anything wrong.
All right, so next meeting we'll do, it will be in May, we'll do a Cal Origin update, we'll talk about the recommendation, we'll talk about training, and then we'll talk about the guide to prepare for track and trace. Those will be our agenda items. All right. That's it, all I have. So we'll see you in May.
Can I get on the email list? I'm on the one for the ordinance, but...
So you email Kat.
What's that?
Kat, she sends the, are you on another working group?
Yes.
You know the email you get from Cassandra?
Yes.
So email her and ask to be added on.
Okay, great.
For those of you that will back. We'll see you later.
Okay.
Thanks, Sarah.